So next up on our agenda, take a look at this. So you never know what's going to be in the data. You never know what's going to be in the data. So that's a great segue for our next speaker, who loves data and does a great job with it. I've had a chance to work with him on a number of engagements, and the depth. And I'll reuse a word, not to be repetitive, but I'll use this word passion again. The depth of knowledge and the passion that this gentleman has for his area of expertise is very impressive. So really glad to have Gary Bell here today to go through the topic of data analytics and D365. Gary?
Thank you. Is this working yet? When we go here? Am I on? Yes. Am I on? Okay. They said they wouldn't be able to hear it up here. A little closer. All right. I'll talk loud enough anyway. So thank you, David and Mike, for giving me the coveted final slot of the afternoon. This is like a rock concert that makes me the headliner, right? Yep. So thank you all for coming. I wanted to talk about so broadly data analytics and how it integrates here with Dynamics 365. We're going to talk a lot about Power BI. I know a number of people, and I thank you for kind of some of the preview kind of stuff. I know Prashant just mentioned our Power BI, and it was mentioned I think a couple of times this afternoon as well. You can see that it's becoming a bit more integrated, and I'm not even sure if the roadmap, I know Barb touched on it earlier as well. It seems like the reporting inside of Dynamics 365 is moving more to a native kind of Power BI model. So let's see. There we go. So Power BI is certainly the kind of the beachhead here in terms of integrating a lot of the analytics kind of stuff that we do into Power BI, or into CRM. So, and some of you may be aware of this, but we can take Power BI content, Power BI, we'll call them tiles or reports, and embed them right into natively into the CRM application now. I work with a client now that is already talking about how they don't want this confusing mishmash of different products and ways to get at data. They say, if you want our sales guys to use it, it's got to be in CRM, right? They're not going to go out to Power BI to pull up the reports themselves or pull it up in another tool, go to a SharePoint portal. So this makes that possible. And if nothing else, you can take it, and replace or augment some of the built-in content that's already in CRM. For example, there's some pipeline funnels and reports, those kind of things that come kind of out of the box. You don't get quite the dynamicism, if that's the right word, with the reporting. Those are, whether you know it or not, those are SQL reporting services reports that are built in there. And they're useful. They present a lot of good information, but they're just not as interactive and dynamic. You can use Power BI as, again, to kind of augment or replace some of that content, and you'll get a much more interactive feel. I'm going to jump over here, and we're going to show some of that stuff here in just a minute. So that is kind of in my mind, kind of a no-brainer. There's an easy way to get that data. There's a little content pack that we can connect to and pull your data right in. And you can get going with those in virtually no time. Embed them into the existing or new CRM dashboards and spin that up and expose those to your users almost right away. Again, that's the easy stuff. That's baseline. And I think really, if you're using Office 365, Dynamics 365, you should look at that. Certainly, if you've got the licensing in place. We'll talk briefly about licensing when we kind of finish up here. So. But where it gets really exciting is when we start pulling in other data. So again, kind of the other thing we can do here is it doesn't have to be just CRM data that we can pull in and expose. We can pull data in from any number of other sources and expose them as embedded reporting content within CRM as well. So I've just thrown up some examples here. Everybody's got an ERP platform where they probably have a lot of the good kind of transactional, maybe sales kind of data. There are obviously ways to integrate some of that directly into CRM, and there are reasons that you may want to do that. But if you just want to get a quick number in terms of what sales were yesterday or within the last month to date, year to date, those kind of things, you can set up Power BI to directly connect to the ERP, build a model around that, and expose that content here alongside all of the native CRM data. Now that doesn't even require kind of integrating the data. Again, whether you integrate it via kind of a more expensive and time-consuming ETL kind of based approach, where you're taking data out of an ERP platform and pushing it into CRM, or again, and we'll talk about this in a moment as well, a way to take CRM data and kind of merge it together with other data sources in Power BI itself. The approach I'm talking about here is really just having two different data sources and having them live independently, but be able to kind of see them within we kind of call it a single pane of glass, right? A single page within a dashboard on a CRM, embedded within a CRM dashboard. So again, that's pretty easy to get started with as well. As you mentioned, just kind of off the top of my head here, a couple of platforms that might make a little sense within kind of the sales context, like some of the web analytics stuff you can do with Google Analytics or other email marketing kind of providers. But if you whether it's a on-premise system that you guys manage yourselves, or in a lot of cases it's even easier to connect to some of these third-party cloud-based kind of services, you can get that and pull it in here, and as I said, we can embed that directly into a dashboard within Microsoft CRM. So again, this is kind of the easier of the two ways to kind of use this to get started on. And so that really kind of deals with more of the built-in content pack. So obviously I mentioned there's the one around Dynamics 365. We may have a chance to show that to you here briefly. And really all you need to do is give it your credentials. You give it, assuming you have the appropriate access, you give it your credentials, you get a pre-built set of dashboards, reports, it all comes ready to go. At that point you can take those and embed them right into one of those dashboards as I mentioned. You have the ability as well to customize those a bit, the kind of the out-of-the-box stuff. So if, depending on how you've implemented CRM, what fields you're using, what groupings, those kind of things, you can tweak and tune those kind of things without much trouble. But anyways, these content packs are a great way to get started. Again, the Dynamics one is an obvious one, but I mentioned a moment ago Google Analytics, and there's just a host of others that we may have a chance to peek at here in a moment as well. So again, that kind of gets you started with the kind of the out-of-the-box, the quick start approach, if you will. But then there's the one that really opens up a lot more opportunities, possibilities for us, and that's by taking some of these disparate data sets, whether it's the CRM data, and let's assume we'll start there, and then integrating with some of the other information related to your organization. And again, that can be back to your on-premise data, on-premise databases, data sources like an ERP platform, any number of other systems that live either inside your organization or maybe exist in some of these cloud-borne systems. We can take data from multiple sets and use Power BI to kind of stitch them together. We just need to really kind of identify those, and maybe for CRM data it's a customer ID number or something along those lines, to be able to match it up with data that we have from other sources. We allow Power BI to understand how the relationships work, and then we can build integrated reports, dashboards that show, that allow you to filter on data from various data sources, disparate data sources that we've pulled together, cross-reference, drill down. Really some exciting possibilities there. So if you want to think in terms of data warehousing, I don't know if a lot of organizations have what they would consider a data warehouse. A lot of these, anyone do any data warehousing? So I know you guys do. In data warehousing sense, it's like a big formal process where we pull data in from all over the organization and we try to stitch it together in a very organized and structured way to make it easier for reporting. Power BI allows you to kind of shortcut that in some ways and pull data in from a number of different sources and just kind of define the relationships. You kind of skip the step of creating the formal data store, but you try to structure the data in very similar ways. And the idea is that you can present this to users then in a way that they can easily understand it and not have to understand how the relationships between data in the sales table in the ERP system relates to the list of customers that I have in my CRM database. Somebody else understands that for them and puts together the Power BI, kind of the model or the platform. And at that point, the Power BI just becomes drag and drop with different metrics and filters and things. And we can create a powerful, interactive reporting platform very easily. And frankly, once the model has been built, users can manipulate it pretty easily as well. And I think we'll have a chance to maybe quickly peek at that as well. Let's jump over the demo now, if I can. I'm going to try to do this. I hope I don't go out of range of the microphone. And I'm going to have to lean down here a little bit because I'm too tall.
There's a chair behind you.
I may do that here in a second. I'm not on screen yet, am I?
Not yet. You just minimize the, there you go.
There we go. This is going to make it hard for me to...
Well, turn it around.
Huh, what you're thinking. So I'm going to focus just on Power BI really itself here, and I probably need to sign you out, David. Is anyone using Power BI in their organization yet? Anyone using it in CRM yet? Okay. I know we've talked to a number of you about some of the potential there. Again, the process of integrating into CRM is pretty straightforward, so I'm going to focus more on the Power BI side of it itself, and we'll start with the CRM data. Everybody close your eyes. Password 1, 2. I'm not doing that.
No, he blacked it out. You can bring it back up. He was just complaining.
Oh. Yeah, I don't have another view of it. I can't see it. But now I forgot where it was. It's just password 123 in case anybody. So I'm going to jump down here. I've got one set up. Maybe I can go full screen here. Yeah, we'll do that. All right, so this is the out-of-the-box CRM sales content pack, dashboard, et cetera. I just pointed this to I just set up a real quick trial instance of CRM, pointing to that, so that the data is a little sketchy. It's not real in depth, but this is what you get. Again, all you have to do is to type in your credentials. Any one of you that have CRM stood up, Dynamics CRM Online stood up, you just give it the web address, you type in your credentials, and really off you go. You'll have this exact dashboard set up for your organization with your data in a matter of minutes. I guess the other piece you would need there is a PowerBI.com account, which you can get started even easier just by giving it your work email address, and you'll get started with a free trial right away. So you can have, any one of you that use CRM can have this exact same dashboard set up within 5 minutes without any issue, I promise. And so, just real briefly, this is a Power BI dashboard. These are all various tiles. Again, any one of these can be easily embedded directly within a CRM dashboard as well. And as I say that, you can have CRM, or you can have Power BI content live on a CRM dashboard alongside some of the native reporting content from CRM, as well as there are other things that we can embed on a dashboard as well, right?
Yeah, so you can
I'm
either
gonna trip
pull
over
in
that.
individual components in there inside of out of the box dashboard, or you can pull in a full dashboard from Power BI and display it inside of CRM.
Yeah, so
That's
we can
optional.
mix and match, and it's pretty pretty open-ended in the way we set that up. But again, these are kind of the top row there. You just get kind of a list of various KPIs. Again, a not super helpful blank one by revenue, a one revenue chart. And it doesn't look like they've done much to geocode this, or they've got a lot of business in, I think that's Dorothy's hometown. But again, this is the dashboard. As we click on the dashboard and you click on any one of these individual reports, or I guess tiles as we'll call them, you get back into the underlying report. This is where the interactivity, the data really starts to shine. So as we want to just focus on our warm accounts, at least by that rating, you can click on that and you see everything else cross filters automatically. Again, this is all set up and driven really by the Power BI platform and the model and understanding the way the data is set up. So this is not some advanced coding process that you have to have some IT report developer spend weeks to define. This all is set up pretty easily. So you see just how easy everything is to kind of cross filter and get that process going. And so it's again just much more dynamic is kind of the key, the word that I'll go back to in terms of bringing your data to life. Again, this is all the data that comes available to you right out of the box with the content pack for CRM. Now they have, I guess I should say here real quickly, this is just the sales-focused content pack. They've got content packs on all kinds of other areas of dynamics if you use kind of the broader context as well. So, but again, this doesn't get into any of the integration kind of stories that we talked about. You can get into this, and if you want to edit the report, just to kind of highlight quickly just how easy it is to change some of this stuff around. You know, if you highlight any one of these reports and you want to make that a pie chart instead, you can certainly do that pretty easily. I got to remember where it was. You also see that we've kind of curated the list of entities and data that's available from the CRM platform. I say we have, again, this is the out-of-the-box set of entities that get pulled out of CRM. And again, you don't quite have well, in here you don't have the ability to customize what's available significantly, but we'll talk about an opportunity to do that in a moment. But you've got all these various attributes of an account that you can drag on and filter by, et cetera. You've got your various, it looks like in this case we've got something from the lead table. They've exposed a lot of data, and as anybody that's worked with CRM knows, there's a lot of data, a lot of fields in CRM. So it makes it a little easier to be able to search through it, et cetera, and do stuff like that. So again, this is just the content pack you'd get for kind of the out of the box, and as I said, I would absolutely recommend, just as a baseline for anyone kind of using CRM, get this stood up, play with it a little bit. Even if you don't deploy it for your analyst, I think it'd be a great tool for them to be able to dig through the data this way. And then if you do get deployed and get it licensed, we'll hit on that. Integrate into CRM. I think the reporting will really go up, tenfold. The capabilities on the reporting side go up tenfold in terms of what you're able to do here, and able to manipulate the data. But then again, we get into the some of the more advanced integration features, and really to take that data then and stitch it together with other data sets. Just to use a couple that I already talked about. We've got the CRM data here. But if you've got this kind of the sales data that lives in your ERP platform, and you want to bring that together to maybe to gauge performance of your sales process, you can do that. And the tool to really do that, and I'm probably not going to pull it up here, is a tool you can download here from PowerBI.com as well. It's called the Power BI Desktop tool. It's kind of the designer tool that allows you to kind of build the model as you see it over here on the right. This is kind of what I'll refer to as the model, which are the various entities and attributes, metrics, et cetera, that are available within the Power BI. Step on that. Available to report on within the Power BI model. And so at that point, you can take data from system A, take data from system B, take data out of our CRM platform, and define the relationships. So I mentioned, I think earlier, like a customer ID value that might exist out in CRM, or account ID, that kind of thing. We need some kind of way to match it up with data that lives in these other sources, and you can manually manipulate the data in order to kind of get it into the right format for that. Power BI allows you to define those relationships and stitch that data together, at which point then you would have a model that more comprehensively includes data not only from the CRM side, but from other sides of the system. So I love the example that Prashant gave. Is he still here? There you are. About using Power BI as a way to short circuit the data migration process. I think he made a great point about how long that process typically takes in CRM. And so if you don't need to be able to interact, you don't need necessarily to interact with that older data that lives in an older platform, but just want to be able to provide these combined reports, Power BI makes that very attainable in a way that we would just kind of pivot the data or transform the data so that it looks the same, basically coming out of, let's say an old Salesforce implementation, as well as CRM, and kind of stitch together into one big common data set. And then you could see maybe leads over the last 10 years as opposed to just having the smaller picture since the data has been, or since the new platform has come online. And it would seem to me like that would be a big win, an easy win. Maybe not easy, I think there's going to be some work there, but certainly much easier than having to try to migrate all this data and push the historical content into a new CRM platform. And there are other opportunities like that you can think of. You could probably dream up as well. So that definitely provides some opportunities for you as well. I did want to come back here just to show off a couple other. Don't want to save those. Just show off a few other features here of Power BI. There's a natural language search capability within Power BI. I don't know that right now there's an easy way to integrate this directly into CRM, although it's something that frankly, I just don't think Microsoft's exposed the APIs for this just yet, but I think that's on the roadmap. So this is something that you would actually need to jump over into Power BI to use, but I want to show it off nonetheless because I think it is very powerful here. So see if I can get the right language here. What's the? Hang on, you got to type in front of everybody, which is always fun. Opportunity. For 2017. So you can just start typing questions in here and get an easy answer. Now this is a real simple example, but then I could say, I think one that prompted me therefore was by owner a moment ago, or by owner. And it'll generate a chart for you right out of the box. And so I mentioned earlier how easy it is to start kind of building your own reports once you get into this model. This makes it even easier to do that, right? You don't have to even understand. You just need to be able to type a question basically, and you'll get your answer. You can customize a little bit more if you want to see it as pie chart. I keep using pie charts as an example, and pie charts are like the worst visualization ever for anybody that's in the data visualization world. So I'm going to get in trouble if anybody. But anyway, so you can customize it like that. I'm going to put it back here. The other thing you can do is once you have the report built, is you can stick that back on your dashboard as well. I should have probably pointed out a moment ago that dashboard is fully customizable. Again, we're talking more about this in terms of the ability to embed these into CRM. But yeah, I think you have similar abilities there in CRM in terms of being able to move content around the screen. This just allows you to kind of select what's important to you and push it onto a single dashboard. The other thing of note here, and again, something you can absolutely do within CRM as well, is the limiting factor within a report is all the data has to come out of the same data model. So in the case of that CRM content pack, all the data that you display within a report has to come from from the CRM data. If you build one of these more comprehensive integrated models with data from multiple places, then it can absolutely come out of that set as well. But at the dashboard level, we can take data from multiple data models, meaning that I could take this dashboard now that currently anyway is focused specifically on CRM data, and I could take some content from my Google Analytics. I keep using that as an example, but my Google Analytics data model, and push that out here as well. So the dashboard really becomes more of a customized view of everything that's important to you, whether that's HR data or sales data, marketing data, et cetera. And you can get kind of your own customized view of that, drag it around and customize it the way you want. We can do the same thing in the dashboards within CRM. So if we want, again, without necessarily having to integrate data from an email marketing platform or directly with your CRM data, you can still have a report embedded there. So think about the possibilities to do that. I think I started off by using the example of one of the customers I'm working with that's very adamant about that all the reporting that their salespeople care about needs to funnel through CRM because they don't want to have to go out even to a Power BI tool itself or have to go look other places. So this is a great way to do that and to expose data via Power BI and then embed it into CRM to get that kind of taken care of. I think that was my fault. Kept saying I was going to step on that. I was going to jump back, talk quickly about licensing and a few of the things there. Any other questions about the way this works or about the way that you could go about embedding that into a CRM? Yeah.
I had a question just about unstructured data. Is there a Power BI connector to Cosmos or?
Absolutely. I should have said that. You can if you've got data, Power BI can connect to it. And as you might imagine, anything certainly Azure-based is very easy to connect to. A lot of native connectors there. So all the unstructured big data kind of platforms, certainly on the Azure side, but even beyond that, it's extremely flexible in terms of the kind of data that you can bring in.
And what about the leverage of machine learning? Is there machine learning?
Yeah, I did want to touch on that. I didn't get a chance to throw a slide in here about that later, but yeah, you can integrate. Well, there are a couple of different avenues to integrate kind of a machine learning algorithm that you can push your data through. I would suggest to do more of that kind of processing in the kind of the back end Azure side and consume the results of it through Power BI. But you can absolutely do that. And while we're talking about some of the more kind of advanced applications for Power BI and kind of those and stuff in that area, you can do things like connecting to streaming data. So I think Prashant again talked a little bit about IoT kind of applications earlier. And so there are some neat things you can think about there from a Power BI standpoint. And you can actually stream live data into a Power BI dashboard such that as we're watching it now, it would tick up and tick down without having to refresh the page. So that's a pretty neat and potentially powerful application as well. So there's that capability. There's I was thinking, well, you talked about the machine learning. Again, that's a big one as well. But yeah, all the other kind of big data connectors are absolutely available there. Anything else? So licensing. So unfortunately, this it's not completely free. There is, well, so to get started, powerbi.com, you can absolutely, oh yeah, jump back to my. You can get started, or you can get started for free with powerbi.com. Just give it your email address. You'll get that. I think it's like a 60, 90-day trial. But what you get is a trial of their pro version. There is a free version of Power BI that Microsoft makes available. But the big downside or the big limiting factor is you can't really share any of the content that you produce. So you can create your own models and create your own dashboards, but there's really no way to publish it or share it out within an organization. So to do that, you need to go up to the pro license, Again, when you sign up for free, you'll get a trial license of the Pro edition. And really, again, that's the key differential, is that I think they give you maybe a little more space when you go to the Pro model, but in order to be able to share it, publish it internally, you do need to go to that Pro license. So the two ways to kind of get that capability are to go to that Pro $10 per user per month. And I should note that that's kind of a retail price. I think you can get a significant discount on that if you bundle it with some of your Office 365 stuff and negotiate a rate with Microsoft. And the other option is the more recent Power BI Premium model, which is it goes away from the per user model and gets into kind of this per server capacity model, where you're buying kind of a node on a machine. And so as you can see at retail pricing, the trade-off is around 500 users, or at retail price, it's exactly 500 users. So if you're thinking about integrating some of the Power BI content into a large distributed kind of CRM environment where you've got many hundreds of users, then the premium model might start to make sense as a different licensing approach for you. But and of course, either one of those scale up, scale out significantly. In terms of sharing this content out, there's a way to create what they call app workspaces and share it with a larger component of your organization. Again, in the case of embedding it to CRM, you'd want to share it or provide it, make it available to anybody that's going to have it embedded into their CRM application. If you don't, they're just going to see a little message that says they don't have access to the report. So in some ways, certainly when you get to those larger user sets, the premium makes it a lot simpler because you don't have to manage the licenses on a per user basis and get into that kind of a management, potential management headache of managing licenses on a per user basis. So again, I just wanted to point this out. So you will need, it is an additional cost on top of the license for Office 365 or for Dynamics 365. And I don't know if there are any SKUs that combine them now. Mike, you may know that better than I do, or some of the Microsoft folks here. So that may be a possibility as well. Unless there are any quick questions about licensing, and I kind of hope there aren't because I don't like talking about licensing. I just wanted to touch briefly on a couple of the advanced analytics workloads that so much of what we talked about here is really just kind of Power BI based, and Power BI is kind of the sexy packaging we get to put on all the back end data that gets manipulated in order to get it into that format. But there are some very neat things that we're starting to be able to do now, or becoming much more attainable for us to do with around machine learning, and Microsoft's making a big push for intelligent applications. And I was thinking a little bit about the applications there as it relates to CRM and CRM data and some of the things that could be available. So we have the ability now there's a Microsoft service called Microsoft or Azure Machine Learning. It's a hosted platform for producing advanced machine learning algorithms, and it really makes it pretty easy to both create these and deploy them. So the process to do these kind of things 5 years ago involved standing up a lot of hardware and probably involving a couple of PhD level data scientists to try to figure all this stuff out. It's becoming much more, certainly with the cloud-based approach to this, it's much easier to get that kind of stuff spun up. The tools themselves make it much easier to figure this stuff out in terms of creating your own algorithms. A lot of it's trial and error, but the platforms make it really accelerate that trial and error process. And so we can take data, I'm just thinking of some ideas. We can take some of the data out of CRM, for example, and push it into a machine learning algorithm I guess we'd first want to build a machine learning algorithm, use some of the data that we have in CRM as kind of a training model. But then maybe build a model, for example, that predicts customer purchasing behavior. And what I mean by that is, I was working with a client not too long ago that wanted to try to understand when customers that are on a pretty regular ordering schedule, maybe not a fixed every month I get, this, but a pretty, fairly structured repeat customer kind of scenario. But they want to understand when those kind of customers are likely to buy again, and maybe more than anything, know that be alerted to the fact or have some reporting about when those customers maybe haven't ordered in a while. So you could imagine a machine learning kind of algorithm that feeds in that historical information, tries to understand on a kind of a per customer basis, maybe a per customer, per product basis even, their purchasing behavior or their typical purchasing behavior, and then start to give you some warnings, alerts, notifications when that behavior has kind of gone maybe off schedule. Maybe they started ordering a lot more, which is obviously a good thing. But maybe more importantly, if you haven't heard from them in a while, or they maybe even have just significantly reduced the amount that they've been purchasing, to give some intelligence around that and some insight really to be a bit more proactive around those kind of things. So that's just one example of a way to potentially use machine learning and building more intelligence into our CRM applications. But again, that's just, I think, tip of the iceberg kind of stuff. And you can imagine the kind of stuff you might be able to get into as you start to layer in various data sources, some of the kind of sources that we've talked about previously today. So those are the kind of the big things that I wanted to cover today. Any other questions then around? I know I'm the one standing between you guys and the open bar, I think, right? That's probably why there aren't any questions then, huh? I know we're wrapping up here a little early. I know Steve was trying to get me to stretch this out, but
we got a couple more things to go over.
Okay.
You're good. But if there are more questions, we got plenty of time for questions if you've got any.
Yeah, I'll just volunteer that Gary and I have done a lot of lunch and learns. We've gone out to us things their data and actually made a presentation board out of while we're there, and it's always been a lot of fun. So it's really good at helping you get to where you want to be right away. You also eat a lot of pizza. Kind of nice thing too. But curious if we get to talk to if we want to get more insights into Power BI and data and analytics that you can do with Dynamics 365, some of the things.
Yeah, I'll follow that up with a couple other quick points though. One of the really neat things about Power BI is how quickly you can get started on it. I mentioned the real quick and easy method, just connecting to that content pack, which is something you guys could probably all do yourself tomorrow. But even to spin it up with some of your on-premises data and connect it, and maybe some simple integration kind of stuff. This is not a 6-month project or kind of the stuff that you might have considered with a big data warehousing effort in the past. These are things we can get stood up very quickly. We do a lot of what we call little jumpstart kind of applications around Power BI, where we'll just come in and spend a week or two just gathering a bit of data, understanding it, and then spinning up a model that allows you to do some pretty neat reports on it. The other thing that I wanted to mention, kind of plug here a little bit, was this is not necessarily a Covenant thing, but a user group that's really just spinning up around advanced Excel and Power BI. So if you or others in your organization, a lot of, every organization's got a couple of these, what I call kind of the Excel jockeys, right? The guy that just tries to, gather up an entire database full of data into Excel and build all kinds of crazy pivot tables and charts, stuff like that. If you've got those kind of people and they don't know about Power BI, they probably need to. But it's going to cover content around kind of both those things. And that's getting started. I think the first one's next Thursday night. I apologize, I don't have any more information about that, but I think it's on meetup.com if you want to search for it out there in case anybody's interested. And if you can't find it, you just want to email anyone here at Covenant, I'm sure we can point you to it. So.
Very good. Thanks, Gary.
Okay.
So he lied to you just a little bit. He's not the last guy between you and the refreshments and the open bar. I got a couple of comments I'm going to share with you, and then we're going to let Mike kind of close things out tonight. But I want to say thank you. There's a number of people that helped put this on. Certainly Steve Thomas Jake Weinstein, our entire marketing team has done a great job. The event place here is tremendous. The snacks, the food, all the sustenance we've had throughout the day, couldn't appreciate that more. All the technology has worked pretty flawlessly, so I appreciate all that. The slides are going to be made available online. And Kim did offer that if you had questions for her, you certainly could reach out to her, but to get to her, you probably want to come through one of us. We'll get your contact information for her. And certainly anybody at Covenant or at Mazik, we stand ready to answer any questions that you may have coming out of the event today. So if there's nothing else, I'm going to let Mike land the plane.
Definitely want to thank everybody for showing up today. Again, David thanked Microsoft and Mazik for taking a lot of time out of their effort and all that to show up here to be able to present with everybody. So thank you, Microsoft, and thank you, Mazik, for attending this. It's very nice. And then a special thanks to Kim for taking the time out of her time to show up here and put on a great presentation for everyone. So one of the key things with this is this was our first annual Dynamic Summit. We plan to have one every year. We've already got next year's date picked, and it will be 9/27 again. We're just going to shift by a day. It will be a full-day event. Hopefully we'll have some vendors here with some booths that you can come up there and maybe talk to other vendors about maybe marketing materials or insights. D365. We're not sure what the vendor list is going to look like, but we're definitely planning to have some vendors here and try to bring in more information and more details. So as you're thinking about this, please email us with any topics that you'd like to maybe see in that part or any vendors that as we're building this list and building the content for it, we can take all that into consideration because we want to make sure we're providing you guys with the information you need to make the best and most informed decisions about your Dynamics 365, its directions, and how it will work for you. Hey, Steve, come on up here for a second. So Steve went through a lot of effort to help put all this together, and I'm sure a lot of it on his personal time. I saw a lot of emails from him last night. I want a special thanks out to you. Plus, then I also wanted to clear the way to the bar so everyone can get there with no problems.
First one to the bar at the same time. So.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. Thank you.